The unfamiliar terrain looked rugged and tough. I wondered if going back would be easiest because building a newer life seemed like a daunting prospect. I dwelled in the past and questioned my self worth. I questioned if I even deserve love and happiness. My relationship was supposed to last. I did everything right, everything I could do to make it work. I poured all my energy into loving the man I married. But that was still not enough. Then what is enough? These powerful words come from Blooming Through the Cracks, written by Jagbir Kaur Kang, a story that reminds us how courage often begins in the quietest moments of doubt. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Nandini Ray, and welcome to the Maitri podcast Between Friends Conversations with Maitri, where we share stories of courage, healing, and community. As we honor Women's History Month, we are celebrating the resilience, strength, and voices of women who have transformed their struggles into powerful journey of growth and renewal. Today, I'm joined by someone whose story is both deeply moving and profoundly inspiring. Our guest is Jagbir Kaur Kang. Jagbir is a survivor of domestic violence and the author of the number one Amazon new release, Blooming Through the Cracks. She is also an international speaker, a yoga and meditation teacher, and the founder of I Heal and Grow. Through her writing, advocacy, and healing work, Jagbir empowers survivors to rediscover their strength and rise beyond adversity. Jagbir, thank you so much for joining us today. We are honored to have you on our show.
Thank you so much, Nandini. I am so thankful to you, so thankful to Maitri for having me come here and speak and be the voice of survivors. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So, to begin our conversation, first I would love to hear how has your identity as a woman shaped your life journey and the resilience you have built along the way.
Yeah, I think this is a question that is really applicable to a lot of survivors and a lot of women survivors, I should say. And just like them, being a woman really shaped my journey in a lot of profound ways. And I think the culture where we come from, or in general, women are taught to endure, to care for others, and to put them first. And what that also teaches us is that, it's okay to silence our own pain. So that is something that I grew up with, and that is something, that I really had it in my head all throughout my marriage. And, the paragraph that you read was, I can do it. I'm strong. I can handle this. And as you talk to survivors, and I also talk to survivors now, that is one thing that many survivors say. So when I went through what I went through, there came a point where I wanted to do something more for myself. And I realized that in order to do that, I have to honor my voice. I have to set boundaries. I have to really transform. And I think that's how my resilience grew, and through my difficult experience. And over time, I realized that for me, resilience isn't just about surviving hardship. It's about really reclaiming my story, choosing to grow from it and putting it all behind and create a new chapter in the journey of my life. So that's how it shaped me. But I think being a woman, just that phase where I was putting everybody else first, and even now, sometimes I do that. It's really hard to break away from that. So that's how I would answer your question.
Yeah, actually, you are so right. As women, we all of us, we are kind of, it's our cultural training that put everyone else before your desire. And also your story and many other survivor story, you also see the resilience, courage that really within us. Thank you for answering that question. And many times when you speak to survivors, when we speak to survivors, we always see that many survivors speak about the importance of support systems in healing, and some even share how community ostracism and victim blaming can make their journey even more difficult. So for your life journey, what role did community, family, or friends play during the challenging time of your life?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for asking that, Nandini. I say you've seen me speak in the past, and most of the time I always have my friend, my very close best friend. She's always there, and I tell her, even today, I tell her I wouldn't be here without her. For me, I knew that she's watching over me, and even quite literally. She is my neighbor, she is my best friend, and she would not sleep at nights because anytime she would see my bedroom light turns on, she would text me and be like, "Hey, is everything okay? Why is the light on at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning?" So
Mm.
for me, my friendships had a role to play. I have an aunt, she lives in India, and I don't visit India that often, but I call her almost every day. And there was a time when I would call her and I would tell her, don't hang up the phone. And this is after I would talk to her for 5, 6 hours. And even after 5, 6 hours, I'd be like, don't hang up the phone, please.
Mm.
And so friendships were the number one thing. Of course, my family was very, very supportive. They were there for me. My sister, and I knew that these are the people, these are my close people who are there for me, regardless of the step that I take. And regardless of, where I would want to go, I knew that they're right behind me. And I want to say that, community plays a very powerful role in healing as well. For me, my doctors were a part of my healing as well. And throughout my journey, I met these people that played a critical role in my recovery. And so I would consider them as my community, as my people. But when we talk about South Asian community or community in general, even though we know that they play a very powerful role, what you just said, the victim blaming, it's very, very, very common. And that kind of minimizes our experiences as survivors. And it's really hard to see when you're not invited to parties, when you're not invited to gatherings, because people don't want to be near you, right? It's like, you carry a disease that other people are afraid of catching. But through this experience, I also learned that healing also involves choosing carefully who you allow in your circle. People who listen without judgment, you want them. People who respect your journey, you want them. But people who claim to be your friends, but when you need something, they're not there, it's okay to not be friends with them. It's okay to part ways. And I learned that. And I think the hard times kind of showed me that discernment of friends. And I read that in the book too. So it all comes in together. But most importantly for me, my supportive relationships, they reminded me that I'm not alone, and that made me propel forward. But community, I actually did not use the services because, and you know that already, Nandini, a lot of women end up not using the services because they're afraid. They're afraid of something. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of stigma. And kudos to the ones who actually do reach out. But maybe because I didn't use the community as much because I had such a strong network of friends and family.
Actually, you are so right. We are in 2026, and still we claim that South Asian community. we are model minority, we are educated, we are successful in here in the Bay Area, but we still see so much stigma, not only in the Bay Area but over all over the world. In every community, in every culture, domestic violence is happening, and every culture we see big stigma, especially in our South Asian communities, that people don't want to talk about this community problem, and we always hide. And this is, I think, high time that we need to break that stigma. We need to talk about it openly, and we need to support survivors. We need to be with them. I hope that that day will come soon. Community stigma, community ostracism, it's so much that many of our survivors, they are not comfortable reaching out for help, and they suffer in silence. And that shouldn't be the case. And thank you, Jagbir, the people like you who are openly talking about this issue and sharing your pain and your journey, your strength. It is giving some people, some women, strength and hope. And also, I loved hearing that about your friend, about your aunt, about your doctor. And it's so powerful to hear that how these people supported your journey. So often, when we talk about resilience, we focus on the individual survivor. And behind every story of strength, there are also communities who uplift, guide, and remind us of our worth when we might be struggling to see it ourselves. So I'm sure many listeners will resonate with that sense of sisterhood and solidarity. We should believe that it is high time that we need to break that stigma, and we support those who are suffering in silence. And what you said, that many women actually don't call any agency because of confidentiality issues, because they may not know about those resources, but when they're abused, when they're in pain, they first probably reaching out to their communities, their families, their colleagues, friends. And if they, at that time, if they don't support them, that is actually not acceptable.
Yeah.
So
It's very heartbreaking when
yes,
your family and your friends kind of say no to you.
yeah,
And again, I mean, discernment of friends, right? Who is behind you? I think that comes out very clear when you're going through difficult
yes,
times.
yes. And community stigma actually restrict many family members even see things different. It's really sad. Now I would love to shift a little and talk about your book, Blooming Through the Cracks. So your title is so powerful and poetic. So what inspired you to write this book? Was there a particular moment when you realized that your story needed to be shared with the world?
Yes, of course. It's going to be a little bit of a longer answer, but I'll tell you. So when when I was already on my path of healing, there were certain things that I wanted to do for myself. And one of the things that really helped me was that I started writing. And that was my coping strategy. So I started writing a memoir. The memoir hasn't been published even now. It's unpublished, sitting in my Google Drive somewhere. But that memoir, I think I spent 11 weeks and I finished an 80,000 words memoir. It's just there was so much pain that I was carrying, and I wanted to process that pain. So I wrote the memoir, and then my next thing was, let me go ahead and publish it. So I started sending the query letters, and I think I sent 125 query letters, and I got all of them were rejected. There was one person who asked me for manuscript, and after I sent the whole manuscript, they basically said, no, we are not interested. So I was a little heartbroken, but then I realized that, okay, wait, one person, one person. I'm just a common person, common man for that matter, in 350 million people in the United States. So why do they care about my story? Who cares about my story, right? It was not a great feeling, but what I also did as part of my healing journey was I started applying for opportunities where I could speak. So I got accepted by this organization called International Violence and Trauma Organization in San Diego. I'm very grateful to them because they gave me a 30-minute survival session in a conference that they hold yearly in San Diego. And so 30-minute session, that was my first ever public speaking in this particular, like talking about my survivorship. And I was very nervous, and I actually called that session Blooming Through the Cracks. And that was a 30-minute session. I talked about post-traumatic growth, and that is what you see in the book. Basically, how survivors are able to grow after they become survivors. And then I forgot about it. But then when I got so many declines on the memoir, it just occurred to me that nobody really cares. And then I was like, what if I were to write about post-traumatic growth? And I'm a prime example of post-traumatic growth in intimate partner violence survivorship. And so that's how the book came to light. And I struggled with the name. I couldn't come up with a name. And in Hindi, we say, "Dubte ko tinke ka sahara." So I wanted to translate into English, and somehow it wasn't really coming out well. And my editor was like, "Jagbir, this is not coming out well." I had a different cover art to go with that. So, when you're drowning, even a straw is enough to help you. And I think that was the original name that I thought about it. And it wasn't really coming out. And then one day I was just sitting and thinking about just, what the name should be. And I was like, you know what? I forgot. My session was Blooming Through the Cracks. So the book has to be Blooming Through the Cracks. So that's how the book came about. So again, I faced a lot of rejections, but writing became my go-to thing in terms of healing. And then I was like, yeah, let me write something that I'm a prime example of. So that's how it came into picture.
Wonderful. And in this book, you introduced 7 themes. I can, I thank, I cherish, I accept, I dream, I stumble, and I bloom. So could you walk us through how these themes reflect different stages of post-traumatic growth?
Sure. So the gist of the book is, so the main message of the book is post-traumatic growth. This is a concept. There are 2 researchers, Tadashi and Calhoun. They did a research on this, and post-traumatic growth is basically a stunning capacity of survivors to grow beyond their adversities. And these researchers, they tied that to 5 key domains: personal strength, relating to others, new possibilities, appreciation of life, and spiritual change. So I wanted to tie in those 5 domains with each of the chapter names. So for example, I can is ties with personal strength, things that survivors are able to achieve that nobody else can achieve. And I always say, and I mentioned that in the chapter I can, is when survivors are actually victims, they're living in that situation, it's really difficult for them to get up every morning and do the regular chores, go to work if they're working, and endure whatever they're going through, right? And so I always say now to survivors is, if you could live in that environment, what makes you think that you cannot survive now or that you cannot do things now? So just like that, relating to others, for example, that one I connected that one with the chapter I Cherish, where you cherish the friendship that you have, you cherish the friends that you have, and you have these connections with these people. And as I mentioned already, these connections at the time when you need them, if those people aren't there for you or if they're putting you down, those are not your real people.
Mm.
So that awareness, you need to go through that awareness as well. And similarly, other chapters are associated with the other domains, new possibilities. That is the last chapter. That is the I Dream chapter, where, yes, whatever has happened. It has taught us some difficult lessons, but where do you want to take your life now? Dream
Mm.
about that, make it happen, right? And spiritual change also happens. That is where the acceptance comes into picture. You Whatever has happened in life has happened. Maybe it was meant to be, maybe it was supposed to teach you a lesson, but how do you connect yourself with the spiritual world? And for some of the people that I talk to, you talk to, they use prayer as an example, but for some of the other people, it could be just writing about your experiences. It could be just taking a walk outside. Whatever that means to you, we have to figure that out for ourselves.
Mm.
And then I also added two more chapters, which is I Stumble and I Bloom. And I Stumble, I thought was very, very important because there's so many barriers that exist that kind of force us to kind of return back. And that may be the reason why um, the intimate partner violence survivors they go back like 5 to 7 times is what the research say.
Mm.
And so I wanted to make sure that I cover things which kind of puts us in that situation where we are thinking that, oh, is it, I don't know, the future is uncertain, maybe, going back is easier. And you may have seen that when you work with survivors. And as an example, if they have financial challenges, or if they don't have a legal status on their own, like they don't have green card, then they're like, I'm going to get it through, my spouse. So maybe I should just go back, right?
Mm.
So these are the things where we stumble. And I mentioned that in the chapter is, look, our brains are supposed to protect us, and the brains will choose familiar patterns, even if they are toxic, over unfamiliar future, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty in the future. So the brain is going to keep telling you, go back. Maybe that is better. Maybe you should stay for the kids or for financial reasons or whatever else that may be,
Mm.
that, my family will not take me back, whatever that is. If you become aware of those barriers, then you can do something about it. And finally, you can go through the last chapter, which is I Bloom. It
Mm.
is up to you how you want to bloom. But in order for you to bloom, you need to have an awareness about what the problems that you might be facing. You need to have an awareness of the strength that you have already, and you need to be aware of like what your dreams were before you got into this situation, and where do you want to go in the future. So those are what the chapters kind of signify. But there was another thing, reason why I chose these as affirmations, because I want every reader, if they choose to read the book, is to use these as affirmations. And affirmations are very, very powerful. And research suggests that. So why not use them, right? All you have to do is open the index page where the chapter names are written and start saying those affirmations. So that was my goal.
Yeah, actually, when I was reading your book, I felt like all chapters are, powerful, but most powerful is I can. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if survivors they uh, finding the strength and finding that courage within themselves, it's not easy. The moment they can find that strength and they can tell them that yes, I can, that is half the battle is won. And then as you grow in that different like from I can to I thank, I cherish, and then the stumble one also a very real one, right? Many people they face so many challenges, life challenges, and it's not easy going through all these challenges to bloom. And when at the last chapter I bloom, That is so beautiful, so powerful message of healing, that it is possible, healing is possible. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually would recommend all our readers, whenever you get a chance, to read that book, and so that you can understand that how survivors, they feel their journey is not easy, and what they need is support from community members, non-judgmental support from community members. Then it will be very easy for them to say that I can. Jagbir, kudos to you. It's not easy. It's not easy to think and about your personal trauma and writing about it. It's a, I believe it's a incredibly vulnerable process. So were there any moments during the writing of this book when you felt especially emotional, and
Mm-hmm.
what did you do to navigate those moments?
There were so many of these moments. So, writing about these deep personal experiences is very, very emotional. And for me, it was more emotional because not only I was trying to heal abuse and really figuring out my identity, like I wouldn't say newer identity, but the identity that I had lost. But during that same time, I was going through my cancer diagnosis and treatment. So it was that moment where I was just like every single day was very, there would be moments where I would think, why me? Right. And this is a
Mm.
question that you might have heard a lot of survivors ask, like, why me? I mean, even the paragraph that you read earlier was, I did everything right, but why
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
And so those are the moments where I was very, very emotional. And I navigated those moments knowing that it's only me who has to find a solution. It's only me who has to, go through this difficult time. And then maybe this journey will lead me somewhere. And as I mentioned, I relied on a lot of people. Even when I was writing, I would write and I would cry, and then the next thing is I would be talking to either my friend. I have another friend in New Jersey. I talk to her almost every day. I was calling my aunt. I would call my sister, and sometimes I'd joke with them, and I'd be like, you know what? I'm just gonna record this next time so I can replay because I'd be talking to so many people every single day. And so that was really, really helpful for me. The other thing that I did, Nandini, that really helped me was, to feel grounded was I started yoga teacher training. And I didn't do it because I wanted to teach. I did it because I thought at the time that it would force me to do it myself, and while teaching others I might be doing that myself. So I wanted to feel grounded. I wanted to learn how healing really works and why certain situations, difficult situations, make us go through, like in my case, my body was exhibiting all these symptoms which I kind of ignored, right? And then finally I was diagnosed, and I really wanted to figure out why that happened. And the I learned how to be grounded, how to be a little bit more calm and composed through all these things. But writing itself was very helpful, right? Because I was processing a lot of things. And then I think my ultimate goal was that if I'm remembering my story, and if this story helps other people in some way, then I think that was also in my head. So it was okay to be vulnerable and feel emotional. But then this is not just my story. This is everybody else's story. It's not really different from what you see these survivors. They tell you so many stories, and I think right now I find a lot of peace and joy when I work with survivors and they come and they're like, Jagbir, can we hug you? That brings me a lot of joy. I spoke at IVET in Hawaii a couple of weeks ago, and I spoke about how you can use body for your own healing. And towards the end of the session, a lot of people, they came, they're like, can we hug you, right?
Mm.
So I think these things still continue to heal me, and it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be emotional. I do get emotional even now talking about it.
Yes, yes, and you are making me emotional. I am kind of thinking how much courage and resilience and power a woman can have to talk about their own pain and publicly. But their aim is to help others. To help others, they are willing to go through, re-traumatize again and again. But that they don't even care that they care, they only care about that they are helping others. So kudos to you, Jagbir. It's, I don't know how to thank you. And those who are listening today, they are realizing women's strength, women's power. And some of our listeners, if they are still feeling stuck, silenced, or unheard in their lives, they will also get some courage and hope from your life story. So, for those women, what message would you want them to hear?
It's such a good question. I think the one thing that I want to tell women who feel stuck, silenced, unheard is your voice matters. You matter. You are worthy of so much more. And even if the world has made you feel otherwise, I want you to remember this, that you matter. And the strength that you have, a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people give up, but you haven't given up. And I really want you to acknowledge yourself, that you haven't given up and you still continue to breathe and lead and, make a change in your own life. Healing begins when you allow yourself to acknowledge your pain and you recognize your worth. Nobody else will do that for you unless you recognize your worth. And I'll also give an example here. I worked with a survivor, I think it was last year. So I do run support groups from time to time. And, one of the women was, so hesitant of doing anything because there is that trauma aspect of it where you're scared of pretty much everything. So she's like, Jagbir, I don't have a source of, I have a source of income, but I'm not sure, but I want to do, I think she gave an example that she wants to start her home cooking business, right? And even then she's like, oh, I'm not sure if I'd be able to do that, right? So you limit yourself by saying you're not sure. And I understand that there's the trauma aspect of this, right? But why limit ourselves? Then I had another survivor who actually sent me a message on LinkedIn, and she said, Jagbir, you won't believe it. Like, I started doing this freelance editing of YouTube. I think she was editing on Instagram, right? So something that she was not familiar with. It was completely new territory for her, but she did it and she felt so proud. And she was so proud that she shared with me, and I was proud of her, right? So don't limit your dreams. Dream big, and you're gonna get there. It's just a matter of time. Healing takes time. Healing may not be linear. You may go 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and that's okay. And that is why, you have these avenues. Maitri, you have support groups. You have all these people who are willing to help. And I always say, if you don't have anybody who will listen to you, you can come to Metri and be like, can I use 5 minutes of your time? Can I share something? Right?
Yeah.
These are the things that will make you propel forward. If nothing, somebody will say something that will guide you and you'll go in the right direction.
Yeah. We believe at Maitri that everybody has a right to live a life with dignity, safety, and joy. So you are so right, Jagbir. And your book speaks so beautifully about blooming, even in difficult conditions. So what small practical steps can women take to begin their own journey of blooming when they're even surrounded by challenges?
Yeah, so I think I always say that, for me, again, I give my example because I always say, you are not alone. You're just like me. I'm just like you. But at the time when I wanted to heal, I was going through so much, right? Losing the custody of the children, going through actually a physical illness, getting treatment, and at the same time maneuvering the divorce and whatnot, right? There was so much going on. But I was like, what is that one thing that I can do so I can move forward? And for me, it was journaling. For me, it was writing. But all those things had to do with self compassion. So start with self compassion. Give yourself love. Sit with yourself and acknowledge all the things that you have been able to achieve and that you want to achieve, right? You should also seek supportive relationships. I understand that some families are not very supportive, but it's okay. There may be some friends that you may find. There may be a doctor that you may find. I also have an acupuncturist. I actually met her through the yoga teacher training. She came as a teacher. And then the next thing that I did was I went to her office, and I remember going to her office, and she'd be like, what do you want to work on? And I'm like, there's a big rock sitting on my chest. Can you remove it? That was the best thing. That was the best way to explain at that time, right? But I took these steps. Anything that helps me heal, I will do it. But at the same time, you need to set healthy boundaries. If somebody is really coming into your space and you don't want that person to enter your space, it's okay to say no. And we just are not, some of us are not conditioned to say no, right? So if you want to dream again, you have to take some steps, and not everything needs to happen right away. But what is that one thing which you can do so you can cultivate and manifest your growth? It's not going to happen in 1 week, 1 month, not even 1 year. It's going to be gradual, and it's going to be one choice at a time. So do one thing today, and maybe if you have time, you can take another step in another 2 months, 3 months, whatever that means for you.
Yeah. So discovering our personal strength is extremely important, like you said. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jagbir, for sharing your story, your wisdom, and your courage with us. And conversations like this remind us that healing is not only possible, it can also inspire others to find their own strength, exactly the way you are doing.
Thank you, Nandini. I want to say I appreciate you guys putting in so much effort for somebody else who is in need. I really appreciate all the work that you are doing, you reaching out to me and making me come here and sharing my story, because it may inspire somebody else. I'm so grateful, so thankful. To the listeners, and this is something that I always say, if you don't have anybody you don't have anybody who supports you, you can reach out to me. Just send me an email. I may be able to point you in the right direction. Of course, I have my limits as well, but yeah, just reach out to me. I'd be happy.
Yeah, can you share your website?
Yes, so it's www.ihealandgrow.com, or you can just go to www.jagbirkang.com. You will find my information there, email, phone number, everything is listed there. And I'd be happy to help out. And again, I am an associate marriage and family therapist right now. I will not be able to guide you as a therapist via email or phone, but I do. That is what I meant. I have some limitations, but if there's anything else, I'd be happy to at least provide resources.
Thank you, Jagbir, for your time. And listeners, thank you for joining us for this special Women's History Month episode of the Maitri Podcast. If you like today's episode, please share it with other women in your life and even men who believe in gender equality. Until next time, this is your host Nandini Ray, reminding you that even through life's cracks, we can still bloom. Take care and stay connected. Keep listening to our podcast Between Friends Maitri. Like, follow, and share Maitri Bay Area's social media pages and visit our website maitri.org to learn about our services. It's free and confidential. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
This show is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as legal advice. Always consult an attorney for legal advice. Views expressed by guests of the radio show are individual opinions and not endorsed by Maitri.
Maitri is a free, confidential, non-profit organization based in the San Francisco Bay Area that helps families and individuals facing domestic violence. Don't suffer in silence. Call Maitri Helpline 1-888-8-MAITRI, MAITRI. Visit our website maitri.org.